Everything I'm about to say has got absolutely nothing to do with a so-called political stunt, but everything to do with the integrity of this House. Peter Mandelson wouldn't have survived the vetting for a kids' football club, and rightly so. And yet we're expected to believe from those benches that it's nothing to see here, we're going to do some process here and there, it's a bit of a hoo-ha. Instead of a meritocracy, it's a chumocracy. And that is at the nub of this. We cannot get answers as to why this was done. So what I'm asking today, will the real Prime Minister please stand up?
Stay with me, because the full video I'm about to show you puts everything into a new perspective. Right, so picture this. It's a perfectly ordinary day in Westminster. MPs are doing their thing, shuffling papers, checking their phones under the desk, pretending to listen, when one bloke stands up and essentially says, in the most politely devastating way possible, "Will the real Prime Minister please stand up?" And no, we're not talking about an Eminem tribute act, we're talking about the House of Commons, where the drama is absolutely free, the suits are expensive, and the shade, oh, the shade, is absolutely surgical. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, pull up a chair, because today we're breaking down one of those rare parliamentary moments that reminds you why people actually tune into these debates. Not for the policy, not for the procedure, for the absolutely crackling, barely contained chaos that happens when someone decides they've had quite enough, thank you very much, and they're going to say so, loudly, on the record, in front of everyone. Real quick before we roll the footage, if you're enjoying this content, do me a huge favour, hit that like button and smash subscribe. Over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing. Don't be one of them. It's free for you and it helps us out more than you know. Already clicked? You're awesome. Let's get into the video.
Social Eastwood.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I just want to put two things on record here before I commence my remarks. So the Labour Party don't stand for election in Northern Ireland. We do not have elections next week or the week after. So everything I'm about to say has got absolutely nothing to do with a so-called political stunt, but everything to do with the integrity of this House. And by the way, I find patronising the context that we shouldn't be discussing these things because the government of the day want to get on with the cost of living. I have had 2 car bombs at the edges of my constituency in the last 5 weeks, so believe me, there are much bigger things that I would prefer to be talking about at this time. However, it is incumbent upon everybody in this House to make sure that everything we're doing is completely above board. Now, last week, I posed the question, I don't know why Mandelson was appointed. Prime Minister then said it was a mistake. But here's what I don't understand. Everything that was out there about Mandelson that would have been cause for concern was open source material. It was out there. Peter Mandelson wouldn't have survived the vetting for a kids' football club, and rightly so. And yet we're expected to believe from those benches that it's nothing to see here, we're going to do some process here and there, it's a bit of a hoo-ha, as if there's been a bit of opprobrium around an appointment of a local Rotary club. But don't worry about that. It seems to be jobs for the boys going great guns over the road there. Instead of a meritocracy, it's a chumocracy. And that is at the nub of this. We cannot get answers as to why this was done. So what I'm asking today, will the real Prime Minister please stand up? Please stand up. Is it the man who wanted to tread lightly on our lives? Is it the man who promised a decade of national renewal? Is it the man who said that he was going to do things by the book and better? Because in my nearly 2 years here, I have not seen that. This should not be about party politics. This should be about doing the right thing. And I'm here as one member of my party. So I'm aware that I'm speaking from a place of privilege myself. But believe you me, there's a stink here. And the public smell it. And if we're serious about getting better in terms of making our constituents' lives better, in terms of proving that this place can deliver, well, every single person here today has a choice. Make the right one.
So, here's the setup. Sorcha Eastwood gets to her feet in the Commons, and before she even gets to the meat of her argument, she does something quite clever. She preempts the critics. She knows what's coming. She knows someone on the government benches is already drafting a little smirk and preparing to mutter something about political stunts, so she gets there first. She points out quite calmly that the Labour Party doesn't even stand for election in Northern Ireland. There are no elections coming up, so whatever she's about to say has got absolutely nothing to do with playing politics, and everything to do with the integrity of the House. It's a masterclass in taking the wind out of someone's sails before they've even hoisted the mast. But then she says something that really lands. She calls out what she describes as the patronising suggestion that MPs shouldn't be raising certain issues because the government is busy dealing with the cost of living. And look, she doesn't just dismiss that argument, she contextualises it in a way that's genuinely hard to argue with. She mentions that she's had 2 car bombs on the edges of her constituency in the past 5 weeks. 2 in 5 weeks, and she's standing there telling you that, believe her, there are far weightier things she'd rather be discussing right now. But she's here anyway, because she believes that scrutiny of those in power isn't optional. It's the whole point of the place. Now, this is where it gets interesting, and a little bit spicy, if I'm honest. She moves on to the appointment of Peter Mandelson as ambassador to Washington, and she's got questions. Specifically, she wants to know why he was appointed, given that, as she puts it, everything that would have raised concern about Mandelson was already out there in the public domain. Open source, she says, available to anyone who cared to look. And then she delivers what might be the line of the session. Brace yourself, she says Peter Mandelson wouldn't have survived the vetting for a kids' football club. A kids' football club. That's the benchmark she's setting, not MI5, not the civil service. A Sunday morning youth team in a muddy field somewhere, where the main qualification is that you haven't done anything too embarrassing in front of the other parents, and she's saying he wouldn't have cleared that bar. Now, to be absolutely clear, this is parliamentary debate. This is politicians doing what politicians do, which is hold each other to account, sometimes with more theatrical flair than a West End production. We're not here to declare winners or pass judgment on anyone's character. We're here because this stuff matters, and because the way it's delivered makes it genuinely compelling television. Or, well, YouTube, whatever. You're here. That counts. She presses on, and this is the part that shifts tone slightly. She talks about what she sees happening, patronage over merit, what she calls a crummyocracy rather than a meritocracy, jobs for the boys, as the old expression goes, dressed up in the language of process and procedure to make it all seem above board. And she's frustrated. You can hear it. Not the theatrical, performance-y kind of frustration that you sometimes get in the Commons when someone's playing to the cameras. This is the quieter, more dangerous kind. The kind that comes from someone who genuinely believes something has gone wrong and isn't getting a straight answer about it. Then she pivots to something almost poetic in a blunt, Northern Irish kind of way. She asks, and I love this, will the real Prime Minister please stand up? Is it the man who promised to tread lightly on people's lives? Is it the man who spoke of a decade of national renewal? Is it the man who said he'd do things by the book and better? Because in nearly 2 years in Parliament, she says, she hasn't seen that person. She's asking which version of the Prime Minister showed up, the one from the campaign trail, full of promise and principle, or the one governing now, where the answers don't seem to be forthcoming and the explanations don't quite add up. And here's the thing, she's careful. She's not turning this into a party political attack. She explicitly says it shouldn't be about party politics. She acknowledges she's speaking from a position of privilege as an MP. She's not claiming moral perfection. She's just saying, and this is her actual phrase, there's a stink here and the public smell it. Which is, honestly, one of the most honest and unvarnished things you'll hear said in that chamber. No spin, no careful diplomatic language, just something smells off, everyone can tell, and pretending otherwise isn't fooling anybody. She closes with a genuine call to action, not to the viewers, not to the cameras, but to every single person sitting in that chamber. She says they have a choice. Make the right one. Now, you can agree or disagree with everything she said. That's the beauty of it. That's literally the point of Parliament. But what's hard to argue with is the delivery, the structure, the way she built from a preemptive defence through personal context into substantive critique and landed on something that felt less like a political speech and more like someone who'd simply had enough of being fobbed off with non-answers. If you enjoyed this breakdown, give it a like. It genuinely helps the channel more than you might think. And if you want more of this kind of content where we dig into the moments in Parliament that actually get people talking, then subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. Drop a comment below and tell me, what did you make of this speech? Was it powerful? Was it theatre? Was it both? Because honestly, in Westminster, it's usually both. See you in the next one.